Good morning. I know everybody's looking like he does not look like a preacher. And you are absolutely right. I have to say that never in a million years did I ever think that I'd become a minister. It was never part of something that I'd ever want to do. So I kind of became a reluctant minister. And let me just say this real quick, because most of the time when I go somewhere and speak, I usually have to do a disclaimer kind of the same way when you watch those infomercials and they say the views and the opinions expressed in this commercial announcement. Sometimes I have to do that because I'm an Episcopal priest and I'm a little bit out there. Instead of a suit, most of the time I wear a hoodie. I hardly ever wear a collar unless I'm doing a funeral or going to get an ex-felon a job. But other than that, I usually don't wear a collar. So let me just say that I never planned on being a preacher. I used to be in the business world. I used to own a restaurant and a distribution company and a health food store. And I was minding my own business, having a good life, and I had an encounter with God in 1998. I must say I did not like church and I did not like preachers. And so in order for me to be doing this, it takes an act of God, and it really was an act of God. So in 2002, I became the priest of Church of the Messiah, which is on the east side of Detroit, East Grand Boulevard in Lafayette. And when I became the pastor, we had 40 people. There were 40 people in the building, in a sanctuary large enough to hold 300 people. And I was wondering why nobody came. The average age was about 65. And I'm like, Lord, there's no young people in this church. And he gave me a vision and a plan. So let me just fast forward real quick today. Church of the Messiah has about 300 people. We are a mixed race congregation. 60% of our congregation is African American male under the age of 30. And what I found out is young people, they don't reject God. They just don't like the package that the church put God in. So we put church in a different type of package. I reluctantly got into the activism world with gun violence in particular, because as soon as I became a priest, the first thing I literally started doing was burying children, not knowing that this is what I was going to do. I went in, I wanted to change the world, I wanted to change the community, but it really shocked me. I was burying like 2 to 3 children a year, and I'm like, okay, we got a problem here. We have to do something else. It was hard to get up, to be able to get up on Sunday and say God is good, and yet still there was so much crime and violence in our community, and we were burying children. So I'm like, we have to do this differently. So one of the things that we started doing was activism. And not just activism in terms of protesting and going out and talking. It really started being, how do we literally eradicate gun violence? That was the biggest thing that we were concentrating on, because most of the children that I started burying were murdered. So literally at the church, we started thinking about what are the root causes of murder and violence and crime. We notice, of course, disproportionately it happens in inner cities. Disproportionately it happens to black and brown children. So we started looking at that. We started looking at what some of the causes were. And the way that I thought about it was, it's almost like making a cake. If you were to make a cake, you would literally need milk, sugar, flour, butter, eggs in order to make a cake. Those are the ingredients. Then we started thinking about what are the ingredients in the inner city that is causing a lot of these problems. And a lot had to do with poverty, illiteracy, a lot had to do with the absenteeism of fathers, a lot had to do with gang violence. So we decided that we were going to take on some of these issues. So we went about changing our community and neighborhood and started rebuilding it by providing opportunities. So instead of preaching a sermon, we literally did sermons by what it was that we did every single day. So some of the success stories that we have in our community is we provide opportunities to people who otherwise would not have them. So one of our biggest ministries that's been around for a minute is we do have a housing corporation. We have 213 units of affordable housing on the east side of Detroit. And I mean true affordable housing, not this new version of what affordable housing is, but real affordable housing. So we have 213 units of that with about 400 residents. We decided we were going to do our own employment office. Since a lot of our people were either unemployed or underemployed, we decided that we were going to work to get them employed. So a few of the members of Church of the Messiah got together and we went around and we started working with 106 businesses in our community and neighborhood, including some of the businesses downtown. And we started working towards getting some of our people employed. Now that's one of the few times I put my collar on and went in and explained who I was and what we were doing in the community and how I needed their help. And I really went in and said, how would you like to do something about crime and violence in Detroit? And of course they said, I'd love to be able to help. And I'm like, I need you to hire a person who has a hard time getting a job, but who lives in a community and neighborhood. And if you provide this person with a job, you may be cutting down on the amount of crime and violence in the city of Detroit. And most of the people who just knew that I was crazy just decided this man has lost his mind. But you have to understand this. I believe a virgin had a baby. So if I can believe that, anything is possible. So I went in and I told them this is what it was they needed to do, and lo and behold, a lot of them did it. In the meantime, while we were getting our people hired, Michigan Works noticed the works that we were doing, and they put a Michigan Works office on the inside of our church. And we began to specialize in getting jobs for the least of these. Hard to employ people, the formerly incarcerated, and people who had a long history of underemployment. So we started working on that. That was pretty good. But one of the main things we're really good at is entrepreneurship. Some of the people in the city of Detroit are young people. A lot of them are absolutely gifted. And what they needed was an opportunity to start their own business. So we have a series of businesses inside of the Church of the Messiah started by the people in the community and neighborhood. So one of our biggest businesses is a tea beverage company that's made in our commercial kitchen, which is called Nikki's Ginger Tea. So a single mother came with an idea. She said, I got a recipe and an idea. And so she started working in our commercial kitchen, and currently she has 9 employees, and her tea beverage is in all of the Whole Foods. It's in all of the Better Health Food stores, Salatown Restaurant, Harbortown Market, all of the Avalon bakeries, and her product is about to be picked up by Myers and Starbucks. And once she's picked up by Starbucks, it will be nationwide, right out of the hood at Church of the Messiah. We also have a clothing line, and it's made by a young man named Vince McWilliams. I am wearing his clothing line. And it's called Kill the Hate. He was a young man, came to the church with an anger issue, but he knew how to make clothes. And he said, Pastor Barry, I want to start my own clothing line. I'm like, let's get started. Of course, I don't know how to start a clothing line, but I believe a virgin had a baby. So we started the clothing line in the basement of the church. He has been picked up by Nauer Clothes, Detroit 313. And he will be opening his own store inside of the Fisher building in the next 30 days. We had 4 young men who came to the church. They were all in trouble. One was a car thief, one was homeless, one was an abused child, and the other one was schizophrenic. And they came to me and they said, Pastor Barry, we would like to start a video production company. And I'm like, what equipment do you have? We have a camera and an idea. Aww. I'm like, okay, have you ever started a video production company? Do you know anything about it? No. They asked me, did I know anything about it? No. But I believe a virgin had a baby. So we decided to start a video production company. A year later, they're on the 20th floor of the Penobscot building. The name of their company is I Am Production. They also are interns for the TV show What's Up Detroit. We also have the Gigabit Internet, which was started by 4 young men in our community. We work with Allied Media. Allied Media came to Church of the Messiah. They worked with us in the past, and they said, we would like to provide the internet for certain communities in the city of Detroit. We have 3 communities picked out. One is Island View, where Church of the Messiah is, Southwest Detroit, and the North End. And they said, we would like to do this thing called the Equitable Internet, where we will train young people in the community to be able to be installers, digital stewards of the internet, and provide internet for disadvantaged people and families in the city of Detroit. Now, I did not know that 40% of Detroit did not have the internet. But what was interesting is it made me think, so how are people applying for jobs since everything is digital? And how are children getting their homework done if they don't have the internet? So when Allied Media came to us, we said, absolutely, we will do it. It did help to own the neighborhood that we had 213 units of housing. So we put it in our apartment buildings, townhouses, and all of the people in the community who did not have the internet, we provided it for them. We provided 6 young men. We trained them, gave them a job. They make between $15 and $17 an hour, so that allowed them to be able to take care of themselves and also their families. And so it allowed them to be digital stewards, which was also community activists in the community and neighborhood. We also have a re-entry program, and we have a mentoring program. The other thing that we did too was we decided to do our own crime and safety organization, which is called CUFS, C-U-F-S, Citizens United for Safety. At Church of the Messiah, you cannot joke, because if you make a joke, somebody will actually do it. And we were talking about how would we sign up everybody to be part of this crime and safety organization called CUFS. And I made a joke, and I said, what do we need to do to sign them up, have a parade going down the middle of the street? So we have a parade that goes down the middle of the street. So we are 11 years in. It's called Silence the Violence. And in the Silence the Violence parade, we bring out everybody to foster community pride. We work with Detroit Police. We work with Crime Stoppers, Mothers of Murdered Children, Moms Demand Action, the Remember Me Quilt Project. We work with organizations not only all over the state and in Detroit, but all over the country. This year is our 11th year, and we're launching the Million Children's March. The reason why we're launching this is because last year we actually got national attention because our keynote speaker was Lucy McBath. Lucy McBath is the mother of Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis was killed right after Trayvon Martin because of the Stand Your Ground law in Florida. And so he was at a gas station, he was playing rap music, and he was playing it loud. And this gentleman asked him to turn his music down. He wouldn't turn the music down, so the gentleman killed him. His mother stood up, and she worked with Moms Demand Action to stand up for gun violence sense in America. Lucy McBath and I spoke at the same event, and she told me, oh, Pastor Barry, you're doing incredible things in Detroit. If there's anything that I can do for you, let me know. I'm like, I need you to be our keynote speaker for our Silence the Violence parade. And she came in and she was the keynote speaker, and that gave us some national attention. So this year for our Million Children's March, it will not only be in Detroit, but it will be in Detroit, Chicago, New York. I need to make us help because I always forget a city. Baltimore, Boston, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Sanford, Florida. So we're going to launch this June the 30th, and we're going to ask organizations all over the country to stand up against gun violence, against our young people in particular, and we're going to talk about the issues that create gun violence and poverty in communities. So the 4 major issues we're going to be talking about, of course, is gun violence, poverty, mass incarceration, immigration, and education. So we're going to be talking about those issues on June 30th. It's going to be at Church of the Messiah in Detroit, East Grand Boulevard in Lafayette. We start at 10, the rally, the speaking is at 10, the march is at 11. We invite everybody out to that. But a lot of the ways that we stood up against gun violence was to be able to look at the issues. So we actually did something about poverty in our community. We did something about mass incarceration and unemployment, illiteracy, and all of the problems that was happening in our community and neighborhood. We decided that we would work to eradicate that. And just so you all know too, we have a gymnasium, so we have 3 basketball leagues. We have a computer lab where the kids can come and apply for a job, but also do their homework. We have an 84-member marching band that is just amazing. And we have a literacy program that have allowed us over the last 4 years to have 147 kids that help them get scholarships to college. 92 are on full ride scholarships. And all of this is right out of inner city Detroit. All of this is out of the hood. And let me say this too, because it's vitally important. None of the people, with the exception of our housing corporation at Church of the Messiah, get paid. So even though I'm the pastor of the church, none of the money that comes to Church of the Messiah comes to me when we don't have paid employees, it actually goes back into the community to actually build the program so that we can help as many people as we possibly can. I looked at, if Jesus could be the savior of the world and also a carpenter, then I can be a preacher with a job. So God is going to know that I got 5 minutes. I am a preacher. I am not long-winded at all. And as you can tell, because of the fact that we have so many young people at our church, church has got to be good, it's got to be interesting. But the thing about it is that we try to tell them is it is going to be up to all of us to be the eyes and ears of our community, that we are to be solutionaries, that it is up to us to do something about the issues that's in our city and in our neighborhood. It's up to us to be able to stand up against crime and violence. It is up to us to be able to do something about these things, that we just cannot sit on our assets. Our biggest thing is to use the assets that God has given us as people, and to be able to use those assets and go out and change the world. So a lot of times you say, well, what assets do I have to sit on? A lot of times, a lot of people can volunteer. You can become a mentor. You can educate a child. There's so many things. Some people do have the money, but they don't want to do the work. We'll take a check to be able to do the work. Put your money where your mouth is and decide that you're going to make a difference wherever it is that you are. But everybody has assets. And the way that we look at it, and I'm going to end with this and then ask if anybody got any questions, but for the most part I'm going to end with this. So I'm a preacher that tells a lot of stories, and I just look at the world the same way the story of the Wizard of Oz is, oddly enough. And we always tell people, don't look on the outside of you. Look on the inside. We all have the heart, the brain, and the courage. We all come in with a power. We all have an ability to be able to make a difference. Don't believe somebody else is going to save you. It is up to us to be able to save each other. We don't have a problem with like the wonderful things going on in downtown and midtown and this, that, and the other. We don't have a problem with that. That's wonderful. But somebody's got to invest in the community. Somebody's got to invest in neighborhoods. Somebody has got to invest in the Ray-Rays and Pookies in the neighborhood to be able to say you have a place in the community, and there has to be somebody to be able to stand up for them. And I want to say this real quick too, that a lot of these young people who are doing great things, they're running businesses, they have their jobs, they're doing all of these incredible things, but a lot of these were the dope boys, they were the car thieves, they were the gangbangers, they were people who felt as though they had no hope, but the church decided we had a lot of assets and we were going to use it. A lot had to do with the building and the skill sets of the people who were coming to the church to be able to stand up and make a difference. And Detroit police in one of our community meetings gave us the ultimate compliment. Crime in our neighborhood went down drastically because they noticed the work that the church was doing made an impact on the violence and the crime that was happening in the area around Church of Messiah, because we were standing up for those who had no voice and gave them a voice and allowed them to be able to stand up in their community. The blessing in that is now you have individuals who may have been the gangbangers, who may have been the dope boys, who may have been the car thieves, who are now standing up for the community. They are the digital stewards, they are the entrepreneurs, they are the fathers and the brothers, and they're standing up now for their neighborhood and community. And I told everybody who come, I don't want to know your problems. Come to me with ideas, and we can create solutions, and we can make the impossible happen, because we really do believe that a virgin had a baby. So really quick, any questions? Unbelievable, I don't think I've ever talked to nobody had a question.
My question is, what has been one of your biggest challenges to resolve?
Well, we have a lot of challenges, and one of our biggest challenges, we do everything with very little funding. So a lot of times I have to tell people we're not a bank, we're not a foundation, we're a church. So it's a little bit different. So a lot of things that we do, we really do on faith. It really is belief. And a lot of times it's harder to do when you're just doing it a lot of times on faith. So one of the biggest challenges that we have is we don't have a lot of financial backing, but we do have a lot of faith and that is one of the issues that we have. The other issue that I didn't think we'd ever have is we're literally running out of space. And we have a really big church. We have a sanctuary that can hold over 300 people, a chapel on the side of that. We have 16 offices, a gymnasium, a commercial kitchen, a banquet hall, a computer lab. We also have a bike shop and a 2-bedroom apartment. And we literally have run out of space. We need a bigger building and more space to do the stuff that we're doing. So those are probably our biggest challenges.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say, a few years ago I was exhibiting as a nonprofit based in Ann Arbor, the Haiti Nursing Foundation, at an Episcopal conference for the state. And across the aisle from me was someone from your church. And she said, this is something we should be supporting too in Haiti.
Yes.
And for years, every month, a check from your church came to support this nursing school in Haiti. So you're not just doing good here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions before I turn it back over to Dr. Pearson? Incredible. Okay.
Can you speak a little bit about what you're doing about education and families and children?
Yes, well, we do a lot pertaining to education. And just so you know, kind of this, we do education almost the same way that we do church. So I can't go out there a lot of times in the robe and the ensign and, you know, do the traditional Episcopal thing in the hood. So we have to kind of do it another kind of way because we have to be able to get people's attention. So one of the things that we do with education is through our marching band, oddly enough. So when you come, the kids are attracted to the music. They really want to be able to do something. So they see the band, you see an 84-member marching band in the community neighborhood. The kids come, they sign up to be in the band. Eventually, somebody's going to come to you and say, hey, how are you doing in school? You're going to be assigned a tutor and a mentor. And each child gets a tutor and a mentor who follows them and tracks them and help them in whatever capacity they need. And so it has been basically through our marching band that we literally have been able to send so many kids to college. So they come in because they're interested in the music, but it is actually a literacy program with music as the front, but the literacy is the true program, and it is honestly truly worked. So we got kids in college all over the country, 147 of them, 92 on full ride scholarships, and a lot of that had to do with the marching band. Aim High what?
Aim High as well. We have a mentoring program called Aim
Oh, yeah.
High.
Yeah.
And our coach Terry, he's also the mentor, but he does the same process. They get through with basketball. And from that basketball, that's how he finds out how we do in school.
Right, because they got to work as a team. So it's used as a front. It's really used as the music and the basketball is used as a front. That will get your attention, and then we'll take it from there and start working on literacy and other things. We'll get you employed, but it all comes in. It's actually the front. So, but it works. No other questions?
You said you didn't have a lot of financial backing, but you've described a computer program, a marching band that has to have 80-something instruments. So how are you funding all of these programs that do take money?
A whole lot of volunteers, and a lot of people who honestly and truly believe that they can help. Now, the church, it is good that the church has a incredible, impeccable name reputation. So there are people who give to us on a regular basis, but it mostly comes from individuals who stop and say, I admire the work that you all are doing here. One thing that I can do every month is write a check. The same way we write a check to the nursing school in Haiti is really putting your money where your mouth is. So a lot of it comes through individual donations. But a lot of people too, they become Ubers and taxi drivers to get the kids to where it is they need to be. We do use our resources wisely because we do have a screen press and we're able to make clothes. The person who is running his business out of the church too, he makes all the uniforms and everything else for the rest of the kids. So we find very creative ways to get the job done. But one thing that we're not going to do, we're not going to make excuses because gun violence is major and we know that they can be anywhere else. And if we got them in the church building and working in the community and getting them jobs and in school, they don't have time to think about the other issues that they have in their lives and in the community. So we find creative ways of being able to do it. Thank you.
Going on in the community as well, because a lot of, as I understand it, a lot of young people are very preoccupied with having jobs and see it as some sort of important thing for them. Is there an effort to disarm as well?
Oh, absolutely, because one of the greatest things, the greatest compliment we honestly truly got was when Detroit Police, 7th Precinct, actually told us, we've noticed that crime and especially violence have gone down in your community and neighborhood. It was amazing because a lot of the people who were thought that they had to particularly live that way. And you got to remember, a lot of the people in the community who were armed felt like they had to be armed. It was about protecting themselves. And you got to remember too that when you don't have a lot of investment in your neighborhood and community, there's not a lot of jobs in your neighborhood and community, there's not a lot of places to go in rec centers and parks and everything that we take for granted. Imagine not having those things and then stop and think about what would your mindset be like if there were no parks and no extracurricular activity and there was no investment directly in your neighborhood and community, where your mindset will be. So you have people who will take from other people in order to get what it is that they need. And people feel as though they need to protect themselves from those people. So they are armed, and it became a way of life. And so our biggest job was to stop and say, hey, in order for you to really be armed and dangerous, we got to do that through education. We have to be able to do that through other things. There's other ways of being able to make yourself a complete and whole individual, and it's not about carrying a weapon. It's about arming yourself with the things to make you equipped to be successful in life. So yeah, there's been a major disarmament in our community, but a lot of it has to do with, in order to put the guns down, you got to actually fill the mind with something else and let people know that they're valuable just because of the fact that they're human. It's a hard job to do, but it does happen.
Is there a way where you are networking with other phenomenal ways like to spread best practices around the city?
Absolutely. It's like being here with Dr. Pearson today, being here with the Rotary today, being here with people like Crime Stoppers, and I saw Daryl Harris come in, and Ceasefire Detroit. There's so many incredible organizations that's in Detroit who are really on the battlefield. They're on the battlefield and they're making it happen, and they're standing up. And you find out that you're not out there alone, that there's a lot of people actually standing up and making it happen. I am proud to say that a lot of people have said enough is enough. The people I'm mostly proud of, though, is our young people, because our young people have said, you all are adults, and yet still you cannot seem to be able to solve these problems of violence in America. So a lot of the young people are actually standing up, and it reminds me a little bit of the civil rights movement, to be able to say, we're going to stand up and we're going to do it. Because during the time of the civil rights movement, a lot of those activists were actually high school students and college students, and they were making it happen. They were the voice, and they were the mechanism for change. And that's the thing I'm probably most proud of that I see happening in the country today. Because a lot of times I think a lot of our politicians, a lot of the adults, big business, they're all bought out. And I hate to say it too, even some of the preachers, they're all bought out. And so somebody got to stand up and say, what kind of world are we going to inherit in years to come? Somebody's got to stand up. Somebody's got to bring the peace in the street. And I think all of these groups and organizations are standing up to say enough is enough. And I'm proud to be on the battlefield with so many incredible people. Okay, I think that's it. Anybody interested? Church is at 12 o'clock on Sunday, East Grand Boulevard in Lafayette.